Welcome to the Asian Connection Mortgage Podcast, where we connect Asian Canadians together to talk about anything related to real estate, mortgages, and finances, based out of Vancouver. Our host is John Lee, mortgage broker with Arise Mortgage. Grab a bubble tea and enjoy the episode.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm John, and today I'm going to get a little bit more personal. I'm going to use the next two episodes to talk about my very own personal financial experience. I just recently turned 40 and I'm financially independent already. And it's because of wise financial decisions that I've made ever since I was a kid. I'm going to share with you my journey up to when I was in my late 20s, things I did well and things I wish I had known back then. So whether you're fresh out of college or university, your first job, or just figure things out, this one is for you. So let's dive in. So my very first lesson that I want to share with you is that I started working and saving early and lived below my means. So I started my very first job at the age of 15. I remember this because it was a summer job at a restaurant. And I was getting paid minimum wage. I think back then it was like $7 an hour. And what I learned about that job is that I never ever wanted to work at a restaurant ever again. I found out that I don't like getting my hands dirty. I didn't like serving people. I just did not like that at all. But the point is that at the age of 15, I was already working. I was collecting paycheck, and I really quite enjoyed seeing my checks getting deposited and seeing my balance growing in my bank account. So because of that, after the summer, when I was 16, I started working for a medical clinic as a filing boy. And it was a very simple job. Basically, there was lots of paperwork, and we had to file them in the appropriate patient folder. And it was every other day, so 2 to 3 times a week. And it's after school, so 4:30 to 9 o'clock. Same thing, it was paying minimum wage. And after I graduated from high school, I continued working. I worked at Club Monaco. I worked at Banana Republic as a sales associate. And I did retail until I was around, I think, 21 to 22 years old. So throughout that time, of course, being Asian, I was also collecting red pockets as well. And I had some savings. I really enjoyed, like I said, seeing my balance grow ever since I was a kid. I didn't really I didn't really spend the money. So I kept it in my savings account. I didn't know how to invest or anything. So I remember putting into savings account and GICs, yes. So guaranteed investment certificates. I knew what that was, so I put into GICs. Back then, rates were actually pretty decent. And the very first move that I did for investing was I opened a BMO Investor Line direct investing account when I turned 19. I did not know what the heck I was doing, but I transferred 5,000 into that account, and I started buying companies that I knew. So I remember buying Starbucks. I remember buying some banks as well. And I just saw it grow, I guess. And I didn't touch it. But on top of that, I was also someone who really enjoyed delayed gratification. So I had money and I would save it thinking I would going to get something in the future. And I remember hearing a social science experiment on delayed gratification. And what it was is that these scientists, they would put a marshmallow in front of a child and it'll tell the child, okay, if you don't eat this marshmallow within, say, 5 minutes, then I'm going to give you another marshmallow. And if you don't eat the 2 marshmallows, I'm gonna give you another one. And they're going to and they timed whether or not these kids can wait. Either they eat it or they'll wait and then they'll get another marshmallow. So if I was that kid, I would think there's probably like a huge mountain of marshmallows in front of me because that was my mindset. I love delayed gratification, but then also like I wouldn't know what I would do with that mountain of marshmallows. So that is probably my issue as well. I may be leading way too much on delayed gratification and may not be able to fully enjoy today. The number two lesson that I want to share with you is to invest in yourself and your education, but don't go to school just for the sake of going to school. And that's probably maybe one of my regrets. So I went to school and everyone that I knew were pretty smart. After high school, they went directly into university. And for me, I was really lost. I actually did not go to school the first September after I graduated from high school. And I just didn't know what else to do. So I actually did full time at Banana Republic at that time, a clothing store. And it was until January, that's when I got admitted into a community college. It was called Langara. And I was 19 at that time, didn't know what I wanted to do. But because everyone else was in school, I was like, oh, I guess I should be continuing on with school. So I picked some courses, I paid for my own education. And thankfully, after 2 years, I was able to figure out that I really enjoy economics. And that's then later, 2 years later, then I switched to Simon Fraser University economics. And then eventually my GPA was really good at that time because I just had lots of A's for economics. I switched into SFU business, into finance. And I knew that my education had to be practical. And economics was practical. And I loved it because when I went to class, as I stepped out of the class, I was like, oh man, this is the financial market. This is human behavior. This is how the market behaves. And I was able to really apply the whole like supply demand model in real life. But in order for me to actually use my economics degree, I probably needed to do masters and probably had to go to Ottawa and like maybe work for Bank of Canada. And I did not want to go to the east coast of Canada. So I switched to SW business into finance. So I figured, okay, finance and economics, they go hand in hand together. And I know finance was even more practical. As I was in the program, I got into uh, a program called the co-op program. So what that was is that it allowed you to take some semesters off to find a job and to actually get paid. Like this is not like free labor, it's not internship. And I got a job at CIBC. CIBC created a position for me. It was called the Personal Banker Trainee Program. It was for 8 months. So it was for 2 semesters, but they actually extended it and gave me another 8 months. So in total, it was 16 months. By the time of the training, I had my own office. I was opening accounts, doing investments, doing mortgages as well. And I was getting paid about $37,000 a year in salary. That really helped with paying my tuition and the textbooks as well. I was still living at home, saving up as much as I can. And at that time, my life was just going to school and then work. I didn't think about traveling. I didn't think about partying. I didn't have time for that. So I want to ask you, if you're in school or you're thinking about going back to school, why? I remember having friends at that time where they're like, oh, I just got my bachelor's degree and now I'm going to do a double major uh on another course. And I was always wondering, like, why is that? Like, you got a degree in geography, and now you want to do Asian studies, you want to do astronomy. Like, is that really practical? Like, I get it if you're trying to be an engineer, pharmacist, or we want to become a doctor, an accountant. Like, those I get. You have to go through a lot of different courses and training to get really high marks to get into those programs. But if those are not your aspirations, you may actually be better off just staying in a community college, something that's very specific, like becoming a plumber or electrician. I'm not sure, but you may not actually need a bachelor's degree and spend 4 years. For me, looking back, this may be a regret because now I'm a mortgage broker. As a mortgage broker, you literally just need like 3 months of education and then you become a mortgage broker and you're commission based. So whatever you are able to place a mortgage, then you get paid on it. Like, do you really need how to do calculus? No, I don't think so. Or um yeah, other subjects that are required for university, but in real life, I don't remember ever using it. But yet you still have to pay for courses. So just take a step back, reflect. Why are you doing it? Is it because your parents want you to? I'm not sure, but don't go into education just for the sake of continuing being busy. Number three is to invest your money on things that will have a return on your investment and take risks. So at the age of 24, that's when I graduated from SFU. And this was a lot later than my peers. I was definitely a late bloomer because I didn't know what I wanted to study. And also, the co op program pushed things back quite a bit. And in my last year of university, it was 2008. And for that year, I remember the summer I was working at Bell Mobility. And this was actually one of my favorite jobs, even though it was just a summer job, because that was when I knew I really enjoyed commission work. So working at Bell, I was at a retail store. Basically, I was a sales associate helping people set up new phone lines. And I got paid hourly plus commission. Hourly, it was purely just a minimum wage again, because it's just another retail job, but it's the commission that I really enjoyed. So minimum wage was probably $9 an hour at that time, approximately. But with commission and everything, I ended up making around $40 an hour. So I really loved it. After graduation, I got a job at TD as a financial advisor, and I was making around $46,000 per year. Still living at home, and at the age of 24, through working ever since I was really young, at the age of 15, I now have around 60,000 saved up. And at the age of 24, I remember feeling really good about myself because I thought my career was set. I am working at a big bank. I'm wearing suits every day to work and I have my own office. I had a colleague and he was in the same position as well. And he leased a BMW and he was like, "Oh, John, you should also lease it with me too." And I was very tempted. And he was also a salesperson too. So he really sold me the idea. He's, "Oh, John, you should like test drive the car, feel it. You feel like a millionaire and just people will respect you because you're driving this really nice car." I ended up not going with getting a car. And thankfully, I did that because 2 or 3 years later, the same person came back to me and he was like, "That was the worst decision ever." Because when they had to return the car back, uh, he had to like spend probably $2,000 or $3,000 more on getting new wheels again, fixing up any of the scratches and so on. But what I did instead was I used that money and I invested it. So why did I do that? Well, in 2008, the big financial crisis happened, and I had around $40,000 sitting in cash. I was thinking using that 40,000 to buy a Beamer at that time. So what I did was I saw the stock market just going down lower and lower and lower. I remember oil, it was like around $150 a barrel, and then it went down to like $20 a barrel. Same with banks. So RBC, TD, all these big financial banks, they just kept dropping and dropping, dropping. And for me, I was like, there is no way oil is going to continue to be $20 a barrel. There's no way that these banks will stay low forever. And on top of that, like the banks, everyone was scared about banks at that time because there were lots of bankruptcies in the States. But in Canada, it was actually wasn't that bad. But people were just really scared that they just sold it. So I bought it and I held on to it for a couple of years. So I had about $40,000 to $60,000 in stocks at that time. And in 2 years, 2010, I doubled my money. And I had about 120 to 130,000. And this was when I was 26 years old. In 2010, there was some stock fluctuations. So it wasn't just skyrocketing all the way up. There were lots of fluctuations. And I remember selling my stocks and netting about $100,000 at that time. And what I did was I used that money and I purchased my first investment property with two other investors. And this is the fourth lesson that I want to share with you. So by 30, what I would suggest, and hopefully you can achieve, is that you should have made your first $100,000. And let me break it to you, there's really no shortcuts to earning your first $100,000. It's really difficult. It's a lot of hard work with work and maybe even like a side hustle as well. But it's going to be a lot easier as your money grows exponentially through compound interest after you've earned your first $100,000. So in the next episode, I'm going to share with you my journey between the 30 to 39 years old. So I hope this was really helpful. My $100,000 that I used to purchase a property ended up netting me $500,000. So I'm going to share with you more in the next episode. So that's it. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review if you found this episode helpful. And I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider giving us a review and subscribing to our podcast on your favorite platform. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Asian Connection Mortgage Podcast.